Getting into volume 3 of the light novel has really been a crazy roller coaster when it comes to seeing some of the interesting events that have been playing out throughout the light novel. But if I had to make a quick note on something that kind of bothered me a little bit, is that as much as I absolutely love the anime, and I think the anime is an absolutely treat to watch, it really disappoints me to find out that there is some really amazing scenes missing out of the anime itself that is in the light novels. And in volumes 1 and 2 of course, this light novel series, it didn't really bother me too much because there was just minor things missing, some rejuggling around, just attention to detail. But I feel like the more deeper I go into the volumes, the more I realize there's some really interesting and key character plot building points that have been removed from, of course, a light novel when going into the anime. And that mainly comes down to Faya. Faya is a character to me in the light novel that I absolutely find fascinating, and I mentioned this in the previous volume, of course, volume 2 review, that I found Faya interesting. I think she's absolutely crazy, wonkos, obsessive, very interesting in just how obsessive she is and just how much of an influence she has in Belle's growth. And that is something that is shown in the anime, but nowhere to the same degree as the light novels do. In the anime, for me at least, I find that Faya is a little bit obsessive and just kind of stands at the back and just kind of watches things and occasionally interferes. But in the light novels, and especially in volume 3, you really get to feel just how obsessive she is, how much she watches every little thing that Belle does, and she even gets a little bit jealous at some of the things that he does with other particular people. She is definitely a lot more funner to read about because of the fact there's so much more character building and world building around her actions. She has a lot more influence, she has a lot more control, she is a lot more dangerous in the light novels, or at least the light novels show her to be a lot more dangerous and a lot more influential when it comes to how she's able to get away with the things that she shouldn't be able to do, and it explains it a lot more. It also explains the relationship that she has, of course, with her familiars as well, and just how far they're willing to go to help her get her agenda. It also goes into a lot more of her emotions about Belle as well, just how obsessive she is, and how she also notes that as much as she is madly in love with Belle, once she acquires Belle, she knows that she'll just put him on a shelf and that will probably be the end of it, and she may play with him every now and again. But just the amount of influence that she has in his growth is a lot more prevalent in the light novels. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to bash on the anime, I still absolutely love the anime, but it does concern me a little bit just how much has been removed, because there's a really awesome scene that I really love where Belle is getting training from Eyes, they decide to go out to get a little snack, and they bump into Hestia, and Hestia gets really upset, she says no to them training, and there's a little bit more back and forth in the light novels between them. That doesn't really bother me that it was removed. It was what happens after it. They decide to go for a walk and they end up going down this really dark and mysterious alleyway, and that is where they end up getting jumped by several members. And that light novel doesn't describe which group of familiars it's from, but you can tell straight away who they are. You don't need to be told. You can really tell the mood from it. You can see that it's Faya's group. You can see that she's trying to test Belle and see how strong he has grown, because they also note that when they're there, that they go, oh, you have grown a lot more than anticipated. And so they set up this little situation in the alleyway, and they send a couple after Eyes to keep her distracted, and then they send a couple of weaker individuals, and this group is tailored to fight specifically them. They test out Belle's strength, and then he ends up fighting them back, and then once they realize how strong he is, they've gotten that sort of idea of where he's at power-wise, they decide to retreat. And their objective was to never hurt them, it was to test them. And you can see that was what they were trying to do very abruptly. But the light novel doesn't really need to give you heaps of context that you can piece it together being the reader. This is not in the actual anime itself. And as much as it doesn't have to be in the anime, I feel like it gives a lot more context to just how influential, how much Faya has a hand in Belle's growth, how she is trying to influence Belle's growth and try to steer him in a certain direction so that she can get her hands on him. There's a lot more in this light novel that really shows just how powerful Faya is, and I absolutely love her as a character. I just think she's so fascinating and so vindictive and evil, and that is one thing I love, is seeing a good villain. And Faya to me is a villain, but as much as she's a villain, I just gotta say, I dig her. I really dig Faya. She's just a fun character. There is also another scene shortly after that as well that was scrapped from the anime, and they both needed to be scrapped together because they kind of strung together, and that is when Eyes decides to go back to, of course, her base, and she asks advice about how she would train Belle. But she doesn't say directly Belle, she just says, how would I go about training someone that is, of course, weaker? And then, of course, they give some basic advice, there's a bit of bantering going on, and as much as you don't think that strings along, she then notes, monologuing to herself, that she needed to keep quiet because, of course, the events that played out in the alleyway. There's just little things that are removed from the light novel that I really love that give a lot of extra character detail. So for those that are big fans of the anime and you do have the time and the resources to read the light novels, definitely give them a try, because I think the light novels are really amazing. I just love the interactions between Belle and Eyes, the training that goes on, and just the attention to detail that also goes into the fight scene at the end of the light novel, where Belle decides to do his big triumphant growth, where he takes on the Minotaur that was trained to fight Belle, again, by Faya, and of course her familiars playing a large hand in that. And that fight is just absolutely amazing. The attention to detail in the fight scenes is just mwah, 10 out of 10. The description, the fight scenes, it's a very long fight in how long it goes. It takes up a very good solid chunk of the volume, but I really love the amount of a detail that goes into describing the combat, the movements, the way Belle uses his abilities, and of course his hand-to-hand combat. I absolutely love it. And of course the fun interactions that go on before that with the training that leads up to it. The fact that it helps Belle overcome one big major hurdle. Because Belle always had this big fear that was holding him back, and that is something that Faya knows. That's why she influences these events into motion, because she can see that this is what's holding Belle back from having his next growth spurt. It's an interesting thing, and even Hestia could tell that something was going to go wrong when Belle was going out to the dungeon. She ended up sort of foreseeing it. As a goddess, she was able to sort of foresee it from the mug that she was holding. Another little light detail that was removed from the anime is the mug scene, where Hestia could sort of feel the omen of something bad coming, and that's why she wanted to stop Belle from going to the dungeon. In the anime, it just kind of made it feel like Hestia didn't want Belle to go to the dungeon. In the light novel, you can really see that Hestia could sense something that was wrong. But again, I'd love to know your thoughts in the comment section down below. What did you like about this volume? Who's your favorite character? Again, just your overall thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. But if you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe for more anime content, and I will see you, beautiful nerds, in the next video.